Hi, everybody. It's the Week in the Tackle podcast. Great to be back with you. I'm Tom Rennie, the host of this program where we look back at the last week in soccer and, tackle it. Alongside me for the program, both virtually and spiritually, is a man you'll know from Apple's coverage of MLS. You'll know from playing for all the crap MLS teams. And his lovely boyish charm. It is your friend and mine, the former Olympian. He never mentions it. Mr. Brian Dunseth, how are you, mate? You all right?
I'm fantastic, Rennie. Venmo is coming your way at Thomas J. Renato. Going to throw an extra $5 in there for that intro. I'm good, man. I'm good. I'm excited. I'm not excited. I'm really pissed off. I'm really frustrated. Not only did we give up a touchdown at Anfield, we gave up the extra point. It's a football reference or a pointy ball reference for you, Rennie.
Not a clue. Not a clue. It sounds bad, though. It sounds really bad. That's the important thing. You got the point across to me without me specifically knowing the reference. It's like when someone does a Star Wars joke to me. I'm like, I kind of know what the Death Star is, right? And that's bad. And if you're a Death Star, you're a bad. And if you're trying to blow up the Death Star, you're a good. See? Yep. Star Wars. There's loads to get through on today's program. We've got to talk about what Dunny's been up to in his MLS travels. We're going to kind of make the show now Dunny's Travel Diaries, because I think that's what people really want. We're also going to talk about the Arsenal late winner. We are going to mention what's going on down the bottom of the Premier League. And I do have a commentator question for Dunny as well. You're a co-commentator, a play-by-play guy. I kind of do the straight play-by-play and have someone else add the colour. And there was something this weekend that, I don't know, man. I don't know if I liked it. So we are going to get into that. But let's start with the game at Anfield, so Dunny and I, we host a program on Sirius XM FC, right? Grumpy Pundits. On a Friday, we do predictions. And I think it's fair to say that nobody had 7-0 to Liverpool against Manchester United. A couple of basic stats here for those that missed the game. To be fair, if you missed the game, it's weird you found this podcast. But anyway, Liverpool recorded their biggest ever competitive win against Manchester United, surpassing the previous best, which was set back in October 1895. 1895. America had only been a thing for about a fortnight at that point. And it's also Man United's joint heaviest ever competitive defeat, alongside 7-0 losses to Wolverhampton Wanderers, December 1931, and Aston Villa in December 1930. Oh, and also Blackburn Rovers, April 1926. So, Dunny, this doesn't happen. We didn't see it coming. What happened?
Well, I think first and foremost, you got to acknowledge that for Manchester United, this is probably the best form that they could have possibly been in heading into Anfield. And we know the rivalry. We know the hatred amongst the fan base. We know how big of a football match this is. Yeah. And it was one of your classic Anfield nights. And you go back, and I was talking to Tim Horsey, our esteemed, lovely, really fantastic looking producer, about the form, right? And you go back like really just a week and a half ago, you're talking about Real Madrid winning 5-2 at Anfield. What the hell's wrong? Should Jurgen Klopp's reign be over? Oh, they need a new reset in the midfield. They're not good enough. Injury room's terrible. Gakpo and Nunez, they aren't it. What's happening with Mo Salah? And on the flip side, for Manchester United, you're talking about Carabao Cup. And a few days before that, knocking out Barcelona in Europa League, and everything's fantastic. And we're doing little dances on the sideline. Everything's fantastic. And I thought the first 45 minutes, it was a hell of a match. I really did. I thought that first 45 minutes was fantastic. And again, it shows you the complexity of football and how quickly things can change, right? You're talking 42nd minute, Casemiro scores a really good header, judged to be in an offside position, rightly so, no goal. Minute and a half later, Dalot steps into the midfield. Fred doesn't cover. He gets caught ball watching, overlapping run from Gakpo. Varane slides out. He gives him the shimmy shake, far post, side net, fantastic goal. And then a minute after that, you get Bruno in, clear-cut opportunity, gilt edge. He gets the ball caught under his feet, can't get it out. Next thing you know, Liverpool's up 1-0 heading into the halftime break. So theoretically, okay, you're in it. You're disappointed. You gave up a late goal. You felt like competitive fire. If you're Manchester United, the match, you were matching the intensity. You could tell Liverpool was up for it. But that second half, I am as confused as every other Manchester United supporter. I am probably just as confused as Eric Ten Hag as to what the hell happened. They came out, well, again, I don't want to make this about Manchester United as much as it needs to be about Manchester United. This is Liverpool absolutely flying high. The Liverpool that we were used to seeing winning Premier League, winning Champions League, the front three untouchable of Sadio Mane, Bobby Firmino, and Mo Salah. Everything clicking, everything going right, defensively sound, keeping the game in front of him, crunching tackles. That's what we saw in the second half with this group of players. And they took Manchester United apart. And as much as we can talk about the tactical side of things and everything went wrong tactically for Manchester United, I think emotionally they broke down. Emotionally, they wanted so bad to get back into the game. Tactically, they fell apart. And then emotionally, they fell apart. And it was almost as if watching Erik ten Hag on the sideline, I felt as though he wanted to see who was going to stand up. And he was leaving players on to see who was going to stand up. And he was going to find out what this group was made of. Because when things go well, everything's fantastic. But on nights like that, I think he got a really good look of guys that he could trust, guys that maybe he can't trust. And more importantly, we'll get a good indication of the starting 11. And I know there's got to be some type of rotation, but who exactly really let him down? Because I don't think anybody made a good account of themselves in that second half performance.
Danny, I'm a massive fan of Lin-Manuel Miranda. I think his work is terrific, not only because of Hamilton. It's not really for me.
Mary Poppins, he was fantastic.
Yeah, the voice as good as Dick Van Dyke in Mary Poppins. So, there are Cockneys. Come to me for elocution, guys. But you know what? You went to Dick Van Dyke, who doesn't know Cockney, but 97, he can do what he likes. But I think Lin-Manuel Miranda is very talented. He was great in House. He was terrific in House. He was in season 6, very good. He wrote the songs in Moana, which is the best Disney film, bar none. Also in Encanto. I've got some issues with the script, but I don't care what he says. We should talk about Bruno. It was long. I know it was long and torturous.
I was wondering where you're going.
It's a long and torturous intro, but I think we got there. It was a long walk. There was lots of sand dunes. It wasn't a mirage. There's water in the well. What on earth happened to Bruno Fernandes? Now, look, he is not a captain in any way, right? He's not someone that you would say to your children, for example, look up to this man's attitude. You would say supremely talented. You would say incredibly driven, all this good stuff. But a captain, a leader, an inspiration, that sort of stuff, in terms of his on-field personality, I don't know what he does for charity. I assume a lot. But on the field, always petulant, always whinging. I went to a Fulham game recently where him and Anthony had a row on the field.
Yeah.
Continually diving, continually whinging, all that sort of stuff, bad-mouthing people. But that's almost par for the course with Bruno Fernandes. This felt something different. This felt extraordinary. I was once at a game, West Ham against Bradford, and West Ham had Paolo Di Canio. Remember Paolo Di Canio?
Oh, yeah.
Lunatic player. And I mean that in all positive and negative ways. He was just mad. And in this game against Bradford, he kept getting penalty appeals turned down. This is pre-VAR. And every time he got one turned down, he would go, Mamma mia, Mamma mia. And I'm not doing a racism there. He quite literally used to say that. Or a xenophobism, whatever. I know we voted out, but I voted in. But he would do it during the game. And at one point during the game, he had another penalty appeal turned down. He goes over to Harry Redknapp, the manager, and he's like, take me off. Take me off. No more of this. My reputation has been besmirched. He stays on, scores a penalty, I think, afterwards, and West Ham win the game 5-4. Incredible game of football. But that was the only time I think I ever saw this. And there is the one where he gets beaten on United's left-hand side and just sort of gives up. There's the shove on the assistant referee, which apparently is going to get no further punishment, which I'm quite surprised about. There's the wandering about. There's the row on the field. There's the quite literally asking the manager to take him off. Some today, Dunny, suggest that he should be stripped of the Manchester United captaincy. He's not the captain. Maguire is the captain, but he never plays, so he kind of wears the armband despite, not being the captain. So they could quietly maybe strip it and say, well, look, he's not going to be temporary standing captain anymore quite easily. But what did you make to this, Danny? I mean, you played a lot of football. You've watched a lot of football in England, America, around the world. Talk to me about this meltdown on field for Bruno Fernandes and how it came to be, how he should deal with it, and how you would have dealt with it.
Yeah, the body language has always been an issue. Now, I'll start with I think his appetite to win is extraordinarily high. I think his appetite to figure out ways to manipulate the game and win is extraordinarily high. But I'll call them antics, the antics that surround his game, right? If he takes a bump off the shoulder, he's grabbing the face. If he takes a slight knock, he's down and he's in pain, and you feel like, well, the medical staff has to come out, and next thing you know, he's up and he's wincing and he's walking it off. All of these things happen each and every game. What we saw is nothing different than what we normally see. And when you're winning, you can get away with a majority of these things. I know a lot of Manchester United fans that don't like the antics, love the player, don't like the antics, don't like whatever else comes along, because it just doesn't feel right. It doesn't look right. But at the end of the day, you're right. He is an extraordinarily talented player who has an appetite to win everything. Now, when things go wrong, I think all of those antics get wrapped up into visually the eyeball test, really horrible, negative visuals for anybody involved. And in nights like that, when everything is going wrong, like I'm quite honestly surprised nobody turns to him and gives him the old, like at some point, as a teammate, you've got to get just exhausted by the constant moaning. So again, I know he's taking the brunt of this because of the histrionics, the visuals, the eyeball test of seeing him do this week in, week out. But, he's, I guess I give him credit afterwards. He's the captain. He steps in front of the camera on a night like that. He has to acknowledge what went wrong. He's a very different personality when he's in front of the camera and he's not between the white lines. So I'm trying as a former player to kind of see how that works. But it's tough, man. It's tough to swallow. It's something that when you talk about leadership, right, there's a couple boxes that need to be checked. And I think a lot of those qualities are there. But when we talk about like ultimate leaders, when we talk about ultimate captains, there's more of a presence that's not a moaning presence. It's a lead by example presence. It's not a Roddy Raw presence. It's the presence that lifts everybody up, grabs them by the shorts, doesn't allow games like this to get away. There's an accountability. Everybody looks towards him. And I think when you talk about Bruno, you're looking more on the offensive side of things to be that creator, be that leader. But I look at Casemiro, and a guy like that, even though on a poor night, is more of a, and I'm going to say this lightly, more of a captain leadership persona clarified than virtually anybody else on that roster.
Let me throw a conspiracy theory at you. Now, I will say I don't buy this, but I did like it, so I thought I'd bring it to you in the podcast. Someone mentioned to me that Bruno Fernandes was doing a Mourinho, right? And that means lightning rod. That means everyone after a Mourinho loss is talking about Mourinho. Even after the under-14s lose, we're talking about Jose Mourinho having a row with, children. Is there any scenario, Dunny, in your experience of playing the game, watching Man United, whatever, that says Bruno Fernandes was like, this is going to be the most humiliating day of a lot of this team's life. It's going to be a humiliating day for our fans. Tomorrow, I want everyone saying what a wanker I am, as opposed to how bad we were, which we have just done.
It's a fascinating theory. It's one in real time that if you would have said to me during the game, I would have said no chance that theory could be correct. There's no chance he has the awareness individually or collectively in a night where Peter Drury and company are saying 3-0. Can you believe this? No one saw this coming. And as I watched the highlights back today, I don't know why I did that to myself. I was like, oh, Peter, we got 4 more, my man. Just hold on to your shorts. This is going to be, if you think 3's bad, just wait till you hear touchdown. An extra point is good. So if that is the case, then great. Like, okay. But what I was watching was a team that capitulated, that tactically broke down, that emotionally broke down. The tackles, the yellow cards, they were a half step behind. They were unlucky. Balls were bouncing all over, skipping away from them. Liverpool was that much better than they were, and ultimately, I like, again, Erik ten Hag and everyone else watching that team trying to figure out how it could go so wrong so quickly for this caliber group of players in that run of form, just 2 losses in the previous 22 games, to be taken apart like that. Again, full credit to Liverpool. But my God, that was a horrible 45 minutes for Manchester United at Anfield.
I want to ask you a Liverpool question before we do one final one on Man United, because mainly I enjoy your face when you're talking. There was a clip of Roy Keane in midweek. Now, I like Roy Keane. I'll say that right now.
Yeah,
he's not,
same.
but our listeners probably, might be like, oh, he said it about Roy Keane. But no, Roy Keane is terrific to watch on TV. And fundamentally, that's the job of the analyst. Like, do I enjoy watching him? Is it something that I would do again? Do I remember it? And I like that about Roy Keane, as most people do. His analysis is guff. Like, he's not deep analysis, but he knows that. He doesn't bring me deep analysis. He brings me bants. He seems like he's not doing bants because of the violence of it, but it is excellent bants. And he said in midweek, quote, "They come, they get a bit giddy, they have opportunities. It's loads of teams, not just West Ham, but Spurs of this world, the Spurses of this world. They come to Old Trafford, they have a little bit of possession, 1 or 2 chances, get all excited, and end up getting beaten." Is there a possibility here that Roy Keane and Manchester United and their supporters got a bit giddy, got a bit excited, went to Anfield, and went a bit Spursy? Because
100%.
it kind of feels like they did, and the Old Trafford ecosystem went a bit too far with the Carabao Cup. I don't know if it's true. What do you think?
I would absolutely agree with you. I think, again, I was talking to Tim. All of my Liverpool friends that we talk a lot of trash to, back and forth, I'm getting a lot of the touchdown 7-0 daily reminders. I've gotten 4 texts already this morning. Even from Spurs fans, I'm busting my chops. Even Headley.
Put your phone down, Headley. Put your phone down.
Headley and Gabe are texting me, "Hey, give me a wave," because I did it to them because of their loss.
Hey, celebrity Tottenham fans everywhere. Phone down, guys. Enjoy this quietly. For your own good, enjoy it quietly.
Well, and again, I don't think... I feel as though with the way that Manchester United was playing and the form that they were in, again, winning a trophy, beating Barcelona in Europa League over the 2 legs, and what happened to Liverpool against Real Madrid, I said on Friday, I said a 2-1 win, Rashford gets the goal, Manchester United walk away with 3 points, because I can't remember a better run of form that Manchester United was in ahead of this massive, massive game, especially with the confidence, the performance, the saves from David De Gea, the way the back four was playing, Casemiro in his form, and offensively, how they were figuring out changing shapes and identities that Ten Hag had them buzzing, had them going. And I thought it was a great battle, great first 45 minutes, but nobody saw it coming. I know it's easy to look back, and I saw Roy Keane's quotes, and the circus creeping back in, the feel good factor, all that stuff that has transpired over the last couple of seasons. Even the quotes attributed to Erik ten Hag talking about the Cristiano Ronaldo departure before Anfield, that looks silly now. It looks unnecessary to acknowledge at this point, especially because you've done such a great job just sweeping it under the rug and keeping it away from everybody. So, yeah, this is a humbling unlike any other. I mean, this is a generational reference point. This game is a generational reference point for Liverpool supporters. When we beat Manchester United 7-0, that's how bad this is for this group of players, for this manager, and for Manchester United supporters. They're always going to be reminded of this.
It's cute to me. You think Manchester United fans can show humility, but there we go.
Some of us.
Quick one on Liverpool. I'd love to ask you about them, because we had a chat on one of the shows earlier in the week about, is Klopp the right man for the rebuild? We're all having that conversation, right? We're not separate in doing that. And there is doubt about it. Can he do it? 7-year itch, all that sort of stuff. And I still think there's a rebuild to be done in the summer, as I think most people do. But what did we see? How did they secure such a thumping victory, considering you mentioned Real Madrid earlier, but I'd throw in, the Nottingham Forest game or, Wolves game recently, lots of games recently where you're a bit like, what's going on? What's happened? How do you fix it? And in this game, they don't just fix it. They give us their best performance for at least a year. They give us their big win over Man United since the Stone Age. Like, where did it come from? How impressive was it? And where are you now on the, is Klopp the right man to do the rebuild conversation?
Listen, I think the rebuild conversation is more about FSG and the amount of funds that are going to be made available for this roster to continue the evolution of regeneration, right? I mean, it's not as if they're not spending money. You bring Jota in, you bring Luis Diaz in, you bring Nunez in, you get Gakpo in. They're spending money. It's just a matter of comparing and contrasting. And this is what we do, right? When you're talking about the big six, and I'll use that generally, the big six. Oh, I know. But that it's the comparing the contrast, right?
The greedy super six is what we do, Dunny.
Yeah, I know.
I want to be greedy. No one wants me.
That's true. They just want your players. They just want Declan and Paqueta, the package. But the reality is, for me in this conversation, is Klopp the right guy? I know it's a reference point. It's the same reference point we do with Champions League and Pep Guardiola potentially winning it without Lionel Messi, and that'll be the true marker of a fantastic manager. Blah 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 blah. This game, there's no reason why Liverpool shouldn't finish top 4. I don't care what happened. I've been a part of teams. I understand locker room. I can understand how things aren't going well. There's always like a phase where hiccups, doubts, player availability, form, manager selection, player tactic adjustment, substitutions coming off the bench. All of those become variables at play. But the reality for me is that when you win a game like this, there is no reason why that momentum, that standard, why that barometer, whatever that was set after a 7-0 thumping of Manchester United, whatever that is, that should be matched every single game. Now, I'm not suggesting they go out and smash everybody 7-0, but how many times have we seen 4-0 win, 5-1 win, even 6-2 win? Like they are capable. Rennie, I'm humble pie, transparent. They could have scored 10.
Yeah.
They could have scored 10. They should have had 2 more penalties in some of the final moments where these crazy tackles were coming in, because Manchester United defenders were being embarrassed time and time and time again and caught out time and time and time again. And by the way, Gakpo finishing, Nunez finishing, Harvey Elliott answering a lot of questions in that second half, because I don't think he was that good in the first half. Second half, I thought he was fantastic. Mo Salah's movement off the ball, with the ball, taking players apart. They did everything right. And there's no reason that they shouldn't, after this game, be firing on all cylinders and taking down teams left and right.
Yeah, I mean, they're chasing down Tottenham as well, so they're going to do it. Chiellini. I want to move on. I think you handled that very well, Dunny. Well done. Very mature of you. I won't let people know what Tim, our Liverpool supporting producer, said to him pre-game, but Dunny was in floods of tears. It was embarrassing. But we do want to know, where's Dunny been? Where's Dunny been? MLS at the weekend. Where's Dunny been? We do our own jingles. We haven't got the budget we used to have. As part of Apple's coverage, you're at an MLS ground every weekend. We did ask you to get a picture done with the mascot, so I hope you didn't let us down. Where you been? What you been up to? What game were you at? Who did you see? Was it good?
Yeah, so I left on Friday. I had to connect through Atlanta from Salt Lake City to Fort Lauderdale. A lot of weather coming through Atlanta, hot Atlanta, rainy Atlanta, lightning Atlanta. But I didn't get to my hotel. I was delayed for like 4 hours. Didn't get to my hotel until about 2:45 in the morning. And yeah, Fort Lauderdale, back in my old stomping grounds, part of the Miami Fusion with Rocky Ray Hudson was my head coach. What a fantastic time, living check to check, because we were partying so much off the field, partying on the field as well. But yeah, it's great to be back down there. Listen, Inter Miami, David Beckham, Jorge Mas, everyone that they're doing. I know that Freedom Park is right around the corner from Breaking Ground. I know that's been a hellacious situation to kind of weave through over the last 5, 6, 7 years. But the training facility, the stadium is magnificent. All the rumors surrounding Lionel Messi potentially coming to Major League Soccer has only one destination. That's Inter Miami. I was not with Max Bretos this weekend. I'm usually with Max Bretos. Max Bretos was unceremoniously and ceremoniously taken off to call the ceremony for LAFC as they had their ring ceremony. Gareth Bale bringing out the trophy. Fantastic stuff in LA at the new BMO Stadium. It's no longer called Bank of California. LAFC winning 3-2, Portland coming back at the end, but they did a fantastic job. I was with Keith Costigan. He jumped off as Max joined Mo Adu. I was with Keith Costigan. I've done 100 or so games with Keith from our days at Fox Soccer Channel FS1. So it was great to be with him. He's a Liverpool supporter. Thankfully, I didn't see him on Sunday morning. I was able to avoid him at all costs.
Oh, you got so lucky. You got so lucky there.
I really did.
Oh, should we watch the game together? Oh, I'm just not going to be able to. Oh, sorry, mate. Sorry. Oh,
5:30 departure, my man. I've got a 5:30 departure.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was Inter Miami against Philadelphia Union. Philadelphia Union coming up short in the MLS Cup final. What a fantastic game that was. You and I talked about it. The best MLS Cup final in the history of MLS Cup finals. The form that Philly was in after the win against Columbus Crew on opening day would suggest that for Inter Miami and Phil Neville, even though they beat Montreal 2-0 in their opener, that this was a huge, huge test. This was going to be a mentality statement of what the team looked like. Philadelphia Union is actually all the way down in El Salvador at Cuscatlán as they take on CONCACAF Champions League opponent Alianza this week. But the Jim Curtin starting his strongest starting 11. Neither team changed their starting 11, which tells you the importance. And there's a funny thing in Major League Soccer. It's obviously the same in every league, but the emphasis of importance of 3 points early in the season for the momentum and understanding kind of the complexity in the long summer months, and avoiding Inter Miami in the summer months was a great opportunity for Jim Curtin and Philadelphia Union for 3 points. I've been really impressed. I think it was 8 different starters in the starting 11 for Inter Miami from last season. Some great storylines, a young goalkeeper, a Ukrainian center back called Krzysztof. Krzysztof has come over from Shakhtar Donetsk. He's buying a ton of tickets for Ukrainian fans, talking about the importance of community, representation with obviously everything that's happening right now over in the Ukraine. In the midfield, the kid named Jean Mota, a guy named Gregory. Great balance in the midfield, 2 fantastic players. And then getting forward, some great goals from Corentin Jean. Robert Taylor comes off the bench and literally scores. Ball comes off his chest, far post, volley, side net, nothing the goalkeeper can do about it. Weaker foot. Next thing you know, Phil Neville, the tactic adjustment, the players coming on, full 3 points in his back pocket. And you start to say, okay, from a guy who about calendar 12 months ago was on the hot seat because of his relationship with Gonzalo Higuain. Should he play? Should he not play? Did the player respect the manager? Did the manager respect the player? All of a sudden, it's a completely different feel-good factor. So huge 3 points, fantastic night down in Fort Lauderdale, the old stomping grounds. And again, with Apple TV, I think the coverage has been really, really strong. MLS Wrap, the MLS 360, the pregame coverage, the visuals. If you've watched any of it on Apple Plus, it's looking really, really clean. And I think every week we're getting better and better.
Yeah, everyone is saying to me about the caliber and quality of the picture.
Yeah.
Is that you're a technology
like 1080? Guy. Yeah.
So it's like because we have like 4K or 5K. Is it that sort of quality image?
It is. It's the cleanest.
Can you see a fan moustache in the crowd? That's
it is the cleanest images that I've been a part of with regards to a broadcast. And what I would say for Apple, like, when you're in the Apple store or you get your iPhone or you get your watch or you get even like your MacBook or the cords or anything, it's just really clean. And that's the feel and the look. Like, it's very simplistic, very clean. Like even the colors of the teams and all of that, the bug, it's very simple. So it's as we're getting this off the ground and the integration and more of the launch continues, I can promise everybody that Apple and MLS are going to do everything they can to bring every ounce of the technology to the game that doesn't, and not to make it like clunky, overdoing it, but like statistically what they're trying to bring to the table, what they're trying to bring visually to the table, what the tech side they're trying to integrate into the broadcast. I think they're doing a very, very good job, and I'm excited to see what kind of the next 5 to 6 months looks like as they continue to roll all this stuff out.
Now, did you work out whether, let's just say theoretically, this is not a real example, but you had a friend in London who doesn't want to buy Apple Plus, but does want to watch Columbus Crew games, 2-0 victory, Zella Rian scoring again, what a player. Wilfried Nancy, first victory as new Crew Plus. It's going to happen, guys. We're turning it around. But what if I went to watch season 3 of Ted Lasso and I feel like I give Apple enough money already? Not I, this guy. Let's say Jim, theoretically. You work out password sharing internationally?
Jim, Tim, or Tom, or either of the three. I have not yet. I can, you know what? Let me go talk to someone and I'll get right back at you.
Let's talk about Arsenal and their winner against Bournemouth. I mean, that game, I don't know how much you saw that game. So I was working Southampton-Leicester game later in the day. So I'm in the kind of green room watching the games with like a bunch of football journalists. And I mean, it went wild. It went wild. I don't care who wins the league. You know, as you know, we always get accused of bias by fans, and that's fine because you're allowed to be ultra biased when it comes to football. It's kind of one of the things we like about it. But I personally don't care who wins the league. All I want as someone who makes kind of my living out of working on the Premier League is different winners every year, mainly so I can lord it over like Spanish football fans, that sort of thing, just to generally be a dick to people who like other leagues. But it also gives a nice competitive edge, competitive feeling, a title race, all that sort of stuff, right? So City won it last year, so I'm happy for anyone else to win it. And if someone else wins it, City next year. And that's broadly true of most fans and journalists that I know, right? But everyone was supporting Arsenal in that last few minutes, I've got to tell you, everybody, because the way it ended, the narrative of the game. So we were told at the time by people who were kind of watching it on social media, whatever, that Philip Billings' goal was the 5th fastest goal in Premier League history. That's now been corrected. Philip Billings' goal for Bournemouth against Arsenal was clocked in officially at 9 seconds and 11 milliseconds. The second fastest goal in Premier League history. Do you know who the first is?
No, give it to me.
Shane Long.
Oh, Shane Long.
Shane Long for Southampton against Watford, April 2019, after 7 seconds and 69 milliseconds. And it's kind of, if I recall it right, it's like a chip from distance, which goes in with the keeper out of position. So it's the second fastest goal ever in Premier League history. Now, again, don't at me because football did exist before 1992. I know that. Ian Rush should count on this Mo Salah talk this week. I know, but that's the way it goes. What do you want from me? In Premier League history, there have been just 2 times a team has scored a 90th minute winning goal, having gone behind in the first minute. Do you know who the other team was?
Give it to me.
Bloody Arsenal, wasn't it? 2007. Did it against Fulham, but not after a 9-second goal. Firstly, Bournemouth, terrific. We might not have time for it today, but some of the fight being shown by some of the teams in the relegation race is actually going to make it really, really exciting.
Yep.
Others, diabolical. But again, we may not have time. I don't know. But for Arsenal to come from that scoreline, the saves that Ramsdale made in the game, the injury to Trossard, still no Jesus, the feeling that any slip could cost them, to go and win it in that way. And when they got that corner, you know, time is well up here.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, come on, buddy, we're going to get a call. With the attack fails, they get a corner. Do we have time for it? Do we have time for it? They ballsed it up, and then it falls to Reece Nelson, who most people, I think, didn't realise was still playing for Arsenal. We've barely seen him, and then he fires that shot. I mean, it's one of the most glorious finishes. Now, I think the commentators did a great job. They didn't embarrass themselves kind of squealing over it like fans. But the fans who squealed over that, the celebrations, the wildness, the euphoria. I mean, Dunny, that was, and again, I'm not an Arsenal fan. I know you're not either. But there was something so engrossing, encapsulating, invigorating about it. It was such a, you know, there's that cliche, isn't it? You couldn't write this. Well, they wrote like Star Trek. They invented a race called the Vulcans and a whole backstory for them. So this could be written, but it couldn't be written with a grander finish. What did you make to it?
I thought it was extraordinary. And I think in the last couple of matches after the disappointment of VAR intervening, not intervening, and losing out on a couple of points, to see how this team has manufactured momentum back on their side is extraordinary. I mean, 2 weeks ago, we were talking about how in the world did they allow an 8-9 point lead to be whittled away so quickly?
Yeah.
They don't have the guts, right? They don't have the panache to be able to see this out to win a Premier League title. That's not the case. I feel like I'm gonna take this on. I feel like my trash talking to Arsenal friends, I think I jinxed it. I felt as though I was comfortable enough at the stage in which I started firing off a couple of text message that it was okay for me to there you go. Well done. And then it really backfired on me.
You got giddy. You got giddy, didn't you? You went Roy Keane.
I
Never go
did.
full Roy.
I did. And yeah, listen, 6 minutes shown of added extra time. Yes, an extra corner. I think Mikel Arteta would have popped his top had that corner not been given and full-time whistle being blown. And it just shows you that never say die mentality that this team, again, has manufactured within the confines of the training facility, within the group, within the locker room. Again, Arsenal, all or nothing on Amazon. Very worth your time.
This season? What a shame that last season on Amazon is a total waste of everyone's time. Because in 10 years' time, you'll be like, oh, do you want to watch that Arsenal series? Oh, is it the year they won the league?
No, it's the year they were getting rid of everybody. They were getting rid of Mesut Ozil. They were getting rid of Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang.
It's sort of like being like, oh, watch The Godfather. Which one? 3.
Start behind. So yeah, the goal was incredible. The scenes were incredible. And if you're an Arsenal fan, again, it's the feel-good factor. And it's, as much as we talk about momentum from Liverpool, it's the same type of momentum because there's something to be said about a group of players that know when they're not playing well, can figure out how to fix it, and a manager that can look down the bench and say, what can I get out of this guy? Who can I trust? Who can make the impact? Who can make the difference? And again, as much as I hate to say it, they've checked all the boxes, and they should win the Premier League title. They should. See, I'm trying to do a reverse jinx here. They should. There's no reason why Mikel Arteta and Arsenal shouldn't win this Premier League title. Reverse jinx.
I mean, they have the momentum. The momentum of that occasion and recent wins, the Villa win as well. You know, they're finding ways to win after 90 minutes are up, and at that point they are not winning. It is genuinely incredible. And the goal, it's a superb technical finish. Like it's Reece Nelson. He's a good player. He's played for Arsenal for a long time, a couple of loans away, whatever. But this is not, Lionel Messi or whatever. It's not Gabby Jesus. It's not, a top level talent. It's someone who we were not going to speak about today under almost any circumstance. Doing an incredible, almost like stress-free, super chill, could not hit it any better finish.
Yeah.
It was exceptional. I loved everything about that and the celebration too. I do want to move on a little bit because we're nearly out of time. And people don't do much longer on shows like this, I know. But I did want to ask you about the buzzer because I don't want to be a Debbie Downer here for Arsenal fans. But there's a few times this season now where it's come around again. How are we going to do the clock in football? Should we do it a bit more American?
Yeah.
And 6 minutes were put up. And I think it was Lewis Cook went down and Bournemouth were doing some Dunsethery and all that sort of stuff, fine. But then it's all discretion. It's all one individual discretion as to why we did that corner. Would it not be fairer and would it not add to a bit of drama if when that corner comes in on the screen, 10, 9, 8, 7. I know it's very American, and I already know that English people listening to this are going to bridle. Even I want to vomit as I say it.
Yeah.
But there is an element of, are we just playing until Arsenal score a goal here, ref?
Yeah. It's the inevitable kind of Fergie time conversation anytime there's any added extra time for Manchester United, right? Because you give a little bit more to the fourth official, you ride the AR on the near side, you make sure you're kind of in the referee's ear, and you give yourself every opportunity to win the game. So in college soccer, they do have a countdown clock, and it's a hard number. They did have that in Major League Soccer back in the day when we started, and I think it went over well, but then kind of the sanctity of, the pure FIFA football, you've got to do it the right way. Why are we trying to change everything? So again, I've been a part of games where the suggested time allotted by the fourth official, indicated by the referee, has gone over, and sometimes gone over by a minute or two. And you've got managers and guys on the sidelines just popping their top, going crazy. Yeah, like, what are we doing? What are we doing? Blow the fucking whistle. And at the same time, like one more. So my mentality is also, this is how it's always been. Always. That you got to clear your lines. If a team keeps winning the ball and regenerating and it's in the final third, I think until the ball goes out of play, and never in the game on a corner. Never, ever blow the whistle when it's a corner for the attacking team. Because
then how long do you play on then from when the corner goes in? First header, second header, third header?
You got to clear the line. I would say the lines have to be cleared reasonably outside of the penalty area, outside the 18-yard box.
We're over time, and the game is over time. We are done. Additional time is over.
Yeah.
And there should be no more time left. You'd keep on playing.
If the attacking team keeps winning the ball and the defensive team can't clear the line, I always say height, width, and distance. Those are the three things that give you an opportunity for the referee to blow the whistle. Height, just kick that ball as high as you possibly can, because the referee's like, well, who's going to bring that ball down? Width, keep it as far away from the angle of your goal. And then the distance, can you boot it up to where the fourth official is, right? Those are like, that's how you clear your lines. And I think that's like, it's an eyeball test. As much as we talk about time and we talk about, oh yeah, it's all subjective. Like, it's the eyeball test. Did you clear your lines? Is this going to kill the play? Is this the final play of the match? Did it go out for a goal kick? Okay, like the other part that, since I'm on my soapbox, drives me nuts. Like, the ball goes out of bounds for a goal kick. Blow the effing whistle. Like, what are we doing? Why are you going to make the goalkeeper go get a ball, put the ball down, and then kick a ball 60 yards just to blow the whistle? Just blow the whistle. Just blow it.
But that is then being pedantic about the fact it's got to be back in play, whereas
100%.
you're being pedantic about the ball going out of play, but not for a
100%.
goal.
Yeah.
So it's their individual pedantry against your individual pedantry. We've already got done Sethery. We can't have done pedantry. Like,
doesn't flow.
If they get it out when it's a corner, then it's out. It's out. Game over, man. You can't just keep playing on until like a defensive play. Because if I clear it, if you put an incredible cross and time is over, and I'm the centre half and I'm jumping with Erling Haaland, and I get it off his head and it goes out for a corner, why does he get rewarded for my amazing defending? Time's up.
I don't believe you for 1 second, because I don't believe you for 1 second, because if Tom Rennie, if it was the 94th minute and West Ham was about to get relegated and the referee blew the whistle when West Ham had a corner, you would flip your lid. The amount of sorry Tims that would be on this show would be extraordinary because the referee.
Unless the buzzer had gone.
Oh, okay.
It's over. And I, in this incredible fantasy land, A, can jump, and B, can jump Erling Haaland. When it's out and the buzzer's gone, it's over. Game over, man. Like, it just, if I'm going to play the Dunny way, I want to have the Rennie appendix. That's what I want. Let's make it happen. We're nearly out of time, but I'm going to throw some other bits at you. We might do them longer next week. We don't need to throw it all into one show, folks. But let me ask you a couple of questions. Tottenham Hotspur, Antonio Conte is back this week. Actually, I don't know. I might do this a bit of a longer question because I think it's quite interesting. What do you think about this mad idea, right? So they've had Stellini in charge for a few weeks, and he's lost the last couple of games. Lost the FA Cup game in midweek, decided, I assume, whilst consulting Antonio Conte, to rest him for that game, rest him for the Wolves game, which they ended up losing, even though they had 20-odd shots in the game and still lost to this Wolves team, who somehow keep getting points despite being just as rubbish as they ever was. It's very strange. What do you think about the idea of bringing in a temporary manager? And I mean that as in, I'm a struggling manager, I'm Bruno Lage at Wolves, and instead of going, we should sack him, right? I don't want to sack him. He's a good guy, but he's in a rut. What about the manager choosing to bring someone else in for a few weeks to give everyone a lift, some new tactics, new ideas, and then when it's going better, the man who was still there but not taking active training takes back over again? Is that mad? Because that's kind of what Tottenham have done.
Well,
and before this week, it's been going all right.
I think there's a couple different style of managers, first and foremost. You have managers like for Ray Hudson. Ray, when we were in Miami, Ray was more of like your classic British manager where he had his assistants running the session, and then Ray would jump in and give a bollocking or point out something that he didn't like or something that he liked. And it would be as rah as it would be tactical, his interjections, but it would be the assistant coach was really running kind of the session for the most part. They agreed upon it, but then Ray would kind of oversee it and then get into it. I've also had managers that had every ounce of every single detail and basically said to his assistants, like, I don't want to hear your voice. Like, I don't even want you saying anything. Like, it's my voice. I'm the leader. It's my team. You set the cones up. You pick the cones out. You go move the goals around. That's what you're here to do. And then you manage guys on the side, on the side that aren't playing, and you become the in-between for us. I've never thought of it like that, but with this situation at Tottenham, it's certainly different, right? Usually you lose a manager for a game or two, or maybe three, because of suspension or maybe sickness. We saw it a lot during COVID, right? Because managers were coming down with COVID. So you had assistants and guys that you normally don't see. As long as, I think what matters most is that the players respect the voice that they're hearing, that you're creating an atmosphere where the players, it's not mundane, right? They're excited, they're challenged, the sessions look different, the little games look different. They don't want to just do running to do running. They just don't want to do passing to do passing. How can you be creative in all of this? And then ultimately, how much respect does the voice have? You and I talk about this all the time. Like, we talk about the Jesse Marsch situation. Okay, did he have the respect of the team? Well, yeah, the respect of the team, but then Patrick Bamford has a couple of really interesting quotes that maybe suggest that things weren't right behind the scenes, when then you hear maybe a Tyler Adams have the loyalty, like all of these things are real conversations, but I've never thought of it that way. I feel like it could be useful, but at the same time, maybe super confusing for those in charge. And like, how do you come back? Like, Luis Enrique in Spain, his assistant takes the job when his daughter passed away, and then all of a sudden he comes back, but the guy doesn't want to give the job back, and then all of a sudden it's hell in a handbasket.
But then you bring them in up front as you are coming in for 4 weeks, and you're essentially coming in, maybe it's not as manager, maybe it's as you are my 1 month first team coach to write plans for games A, B, C, and D. The reason I'm asking you, not only for Tottenham, of course, but also David Moyes is not going to get sacked. It's not going to happen. Now, I still think David Moyes is a good manager, and I think if West Ham do survive this season and he's there next season, they may well have a good campaign. There's a lot of reasons, many of them, and he's a key contributing factor to why the season's been so bad. So what if he was to go and hire Jesse Marsch for 6 weeks as co-manager, or number 1.1? I'm number 1, you're 1.1, you're 1.2, and you come in and I'm still here, but for the next 4 weeks, I am not the lead voice you hear. My man here, who's super annoying, and after 6 weeks, everyone's going to want him out, is going to get you through the next 4 or 5 games. Like, I don't know. That doesn't seem like the maddest thing for me to do. If the manager isn't going to get sacked, and he's like, right, the coaches have all gone, here's my new coaches. Especially, as you say, the manager doesn't really take training all that much. Yeah. So instead of being like, managers are always like, I'm up for the chop, he's going to go. 4 of the bottom 5 have all sacked their manager. Of the bottom 8, Rodgers, Cooper, and Moyes remain. The rest have all gone. Then it's a bit like, well, why doesn't the manager stay? But he then brings in a brand new staff, change the staff. This is what posh boys do. What posh boys do, go to like Eton, Boris Johnson types, is that when they get in trouble, they sack the help. So why hasn't David Moyes sacked the help? Why has he not sacked Billy McKinley and Mark Warburton in the same way that Antonio Conte de facto promoted Christian Stellini for a few weeks while he had his gallbladder out? And would that work?
Again, a fascinating perspective. I think it could work in certain scenarios. It could fail mightily in other scenarios. I seem to remember, and I can't remember what year it was, but I feel like Sweden, for their national team setup, had dual managers. And I'm actually, I understand the accountability and the leadership value of having just a singular manager, but I've always kind of wondered if it would be more beneficial for clubs to have front-facing dual responsibility, dual managers, because I think the more that managers surround themselves with guys that have the ability to understand what they're going through, but also maybe peer around the corner at some of their weaknesses and protect them from their weaknesses. Yeah, I mean, a potential for more longevity, no doubt about it.
I have other questions for you, but I think that's time for this week, which is a shame. I've enjoyed catching up. I've got a whole bunch of questions about like commentators, so I might park them for another time, the concept of the squeal. But I think it's enough for today. Did you enjoy the show? What was your highlights of it?
I did. It was great to be back with you.
Yeah. Miranda reference?
Your Lin Miranda reference took me on a merry-go-round that I was not prepared to be on. and I really enjoyed it. No, I would say, listen, for me, you know me, I try to be as level-headed as possible when it comes to Manchester United, even though I could be an absolute super homer at times. But again, credit where credit's due, man. Today, this was all about Liverpool. We didn't even talk about how terrible the swacking that Liverpool got at Brighton, 4-0. Yuck. But I'll take it on the chin. I'll take it on the chin today. This is Liverpool's day, 100%. They deserve all the plaudit, all the credit.
I've got to ask you as well, really briefly. We're on YouTube for the first time today. The show has gone up on YouTube. We're going to put all the shows on YouTube and put our cuts on there as well. How do you feel about people watching the entire show? I will say in the studio that I'm in, the sensor lights went off after about 10 minutes.
I saw that.
Very dark room. I can't get up. And also the spotlight I have on me is not really a spotlight. So I feel a little bit like Casper's dad currently.
I mean, you kind of look like it without that tan going on right now. It's still the winter. Yeah, well, I haven't been able to blow my nose. I'm usually like snotting a little bit during the broadcast. My eyes burn a little bit because it's bright outside. We got a ton of snow out here in Utah. Once again, another 5 inches last night. But I feel good. This is the start. I don't think people realize this. If you're watching this on YouTube, like this is the start of what we're trying to do on Weekend the Tackle.